I'm looking at you close, Rex. I know you have your ring light on, so you have very good lighting. I know that you've applied some makeup as well after a long day, having some fun in the sun at PGA National. You did not get punched out. Shane Lowry talked to reporters afterward. I have to give him, to use one of your phrases, a monsoon of credit for doing so, because he runs hot. We know that. He shooed away the cameraman on 16. To his credit, he did not shoo away the cameraman who trailed him all the way after tapping in on 18. How did he look? How did he sound when Shane Lowry met with reporters after the stunning collapse?
Not gonna lie, you did this in Scottsdale. You got a taste of it. The winner's interview is easy, and I love the interview with Nico because he was excited. The runner-up interview is almost always difficult. The exception was Austin Smothering, who was the sweetest man you could possibly do. Just lovely fellow. We're going to get into that in just a moment. I'm not going to lie. I had 2 questions written down on the notebook, and I told our producer, super producer Sydney, that look, I just have 2 questions. I have nothing else for him. I don't know if he's going to talk to us. I don't know what he's going to say. I don't know if I'm going to walk away unscathed, because you're right. I felt like I probably just need to keep my head on a swivel. Like, he may not like either one of these questions, and I probably need to be.
What were the questions?
I'll get to that in a minute. He, as he was walking, he had agreed to do both the Golf Channel interview and it's called Quick Quotes, which is just sort of the general interview area. And as he was walking up, he turned to the tour official and said, "I'm just doing one stop," which totally understandable. Totally down with it. The 2 questions were this: Shane, I know that's clearly not the result you were hoping for. Can you just walk us through the tee shots on 16 and 17? At that point, I'm guessing he will have punched me in the back of the head or the throat. One of those 2 things. Like, I fully anticipated that.
And then you would gasp out. You would then gasp out a second question of,
I would have somehow come to my senses and recovered long enough to ask. I know this is not the result you were hoping for, but for 69 holes, you were brilliant. And he was. If you look at statistically, his lead, everything about it. How long is it going to take you to take any kind of positives out from this result? And my guess is he would have punched me again. I felt like those were the only 2 questions I recommend anyone to watch the interview that I did with Austin Smotherman, because, again, sweetest man, was so happy. His wife is due with her 3rd child on the 23rd. But again, Shane is baffling to me against this field, which was, I would say, a historically bad field, at least by world ranking standards. The player on Sunday afternoon that had the most experience by far, the player who has been through so much pressure, you would think that this would almost be second nature to him. We talked about the Ryder Cup. We didn't even mention the fact you win the Open Championship at home with your entire country standing behind you, something that Rory McIlroy in 2 tries hasn't been able to do at Royal Portrush. It's not as though he can't handle the pressure, but in that moment, you could almost see it physically collapsing on his shoulders.
I mean, I know I poked fun at this. I know that I sort of glossed over it. He really does deserve a lot of credit for talking to reporters and explaining exactly what happened. We now have context. We now have understanding. We now have an explanation for what Shane Lowry was actually thinking and feeling over those final 45 minutes. I don't think anyone would have blamed him for blowing off the media and going on Tuesday. No. I'll see at Bay Hill, and maybe we get an explanation that way. But for him to then explain, Rex, like, yeah, I had the tournament in my hands and threw it away. I'm utterly devastated. This has never happened to me before. Him explaining that he lost the feeling of the club face after that. It was almost like a semi-shank. He had like 211 yards on 16 and couldn't feel the club face over the last 3 holes. He doesn't have a choice but to move on. We saw the emotion in his face and in his voice explaining why I think he said his 4-year-old daughter was on the golf course on the back 9. He was giddy at the thought of her running out onto the green and greeting him as he won individually on the PGA Tour for the first time since 2019. Like, all of that is terrific, and all of that was because he talked to reporters. Again, if we're going to rip these guys for when they blow off the media, absolutely. And I really don't like to do that because I've never been in that situation. I've never been in the arena. I've never lost a lead on the PGA Tour. I don't know exactly how that feels, and I understand the professionalism angle, and this is part of the job, and this is why you get paid tens of millions of dollars to do this. But I think it's really difficult. I think it's really easy to say you should do it and really difficult to actually do it. So for Shane Lowry to keep his head up, answer a couple of questions, and then move on, kudos to him.
And not only answer questions, but you sort of touched on the one that it stood out to me as I listened to him talking about his daughter walking on the back nine for the first time. She just did her birthday at the TGL match on Tuesday night that I was at. I mean, it has been a magical week for him, and this was going to be the magical ending. And you could tell that was the ultimate kick in the gut when it came to this is going to be difficult. It's going to take a long time for me to get over this particular loss because I had it wrapped up, because of the field that I was playing against, because this is a home game. So many other things that factor into it. But he went immediately to my daughter was there and she was waiting for me when I walked off the golf course. I can only imagine how difficult, how gut wrenching that was for just not a player, but for a father, a guy who clearly loves being around his family, loves having his family in that situation. It was tough to listen to him. But to your point, not only did he talk to the media, not only did he take that moment to explain whatever the emotions were, but he really opened up the vein and he gave you a glimpse inside. And for you and I, who tell stories for a living, it's really all we want.